Do you know that millions of Indians are now diving into the cryptocurrency landscape? In fact, the recent statistics show the projected growth rate for this market is a staggering 54.11% CAGR from 2024 to 2032. Now, the cryptocurrency market in India is valued at 2.6 billion US dollar currently in 2024 as per some of the reports. So if the cryptocurrency market grows at a CAGR rate of 54% approximately, that means by 2032 the Indian cryptocurrency market would be at a staggering 21.2 billion US dollars. Now, before you jump in and start investing in cryptocurrencies with this fear of missing out, the FOMO factor, you should know about some of the crucial regulations, or as we say, the cryptocurrency regulations in India. I have read a lot about blockchain and cryptocurrencies, and I have written a blog also. I have my personal blog, blockchainfundas.com, the link of which I'll share in the description box or in the comment section. So let's get into it. So to start with the cryptocurrency regulations, we should know some basic terminologies that we will use in this video, and you should also know if you want to be aware of the cryptocurrency regulations in India. So these are like the terms the PMLA, VASPs, VDAs, which virtual digital assets. So first up we have the cryptocurrencies, or as the government of India calls it, the virtual digital assets, VDAs. So according to section 247A of the Income Tax Act, a cryptocurrency is defined as any information, code, number or token that is generated through cryptographic means and is not considered Indian or a foreign fiat currency. So in simpler terms, VDAs encompass all types of crypto assets, including cryptocurrencies, tokens, and even NFTs, the non-fungible tokens. However, it's important to note that gift cards or vouchers do not fall under this definition of virtual digital assets or the cryptocurrencies. So this is how the government of India describes cryptocurrencies. So they have these virtual digital assets, which are the cryptocurrencies also, which are the NFTs also, or any tokens for that matter. Whoever is more technical into it would know what I'm talking about, but for the broader sense, let's assume that we have the VDAs, which are the cryptocurrencies, NFTs or tokens that we trade in the cryptocurrency space. Next, let's talk about the virtual asset service providers, or the VASPs. So these virtual asset service providers are basically the cryptocurrency exchanges, and the government of India explains it or describes it as the entities that facilitate the exchange, transfer or safekeeping of virtual digital assets. Because when cryptocurrency exchanges, what do? They actually exchange cryptocurrencies, they safekeep your cryptocurrency, for example Coinbase or for example Binance. So these are the cryptocurrency exchanges which will keep your cryptocurrencies with them. These are centralized exchanges, we will talk about them later. But the point of the matter is that they exchange, they transfer, they keep your cryptocurrencies with them. So these are known as the virtual asset service providers by the government of India. And the recent regulations, VASPs are now required to comply with the PMLA, Prevention of Money Laundering Act, ensuring they adhere to anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing measures. Big words, right? The PMLA, VASPs, VDAs. So first of all, the VDAs. We understand the VDAs are simply the cryptocurrencies, tokens or NFTs. VASPs, so virtual asset service providers, these are the exchanges or the wallet providers, right? And PMLA, the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. This is an act that was issued in 2002 and which came into effect in 2005 to prevent money laundering in India. So the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, you can understand it like, so it is an act or a set of rules which are there to combat money laundering in India. So any financial institution like banks, credit unions, or anything for that matter, comes under the ambit of the PMLA. Earlier, cryptocurrency exchanges were not under the ambit of these of this PMLA Act, but now post 2023, these cryptocurrency exchanges are now under the ambit of the PMLA, which is the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. So they need to comply with the set of rules or the compliance measures that are defined by the PMLA. Okay, so now that we know the key terms like the PMLA, the VDAs, the VASPs, now we can delve into the cryptocurrency regulations, and we'll start with the cryptocurrency taxations in India. So first of all these cryptocurrencies like the VDAs that we described are taxable in India. Any income that you generate via these cryptocurrencies, by the transfer of it, by selling, buying, any income, any gains that you derive from these cryptocurrencies are taxable in India. What is the tax? This is 30%. So the 30% of the gains. So for example, let's say you bought Bitcoin for 1000 rupees in 2023. Okay. Now let's say in 2024, the price of the Bitcoin rose and then you sold the Bitcoin for 10,000 rupees. So your cost price for the Bitcoin was 1000 and the selling price was 10,000. So you gained rupees 9,000. So this is the gain, right? Now the gain has a 30% of tax. So that means you will owe the government 30% of 9,000, which is the gain, which is rupees 2,700. So please note that the income that is generated from cryptocurrencies can be classified as capital gains or a business income. So capital gains, when you sell or buy cryptocurrencies, that is your capital gain. So for example, the thing that we considered you bought for 1000 sold at 10,000. So this 9,000 was your capital gains. But then when you trade actively in cryptocurrencies, then the income that you generate by trading cryptocurrencies is your business income. So regardless of the classification of the income that you gain from cryptocurrencies, whether it is a capital gain or it is a business income, you are liable for a 30% of tax to the government. And remember, this is in addition to the income tax that you are liable to pay in that year on your other income. Like for example, if you're a salaried person and you are earning 20 lakhs, so the amount of tax that you owe on your income is in addition to the taxation that you will have to pay on the cryptocurrencies income that you generate in that year. Now, apart from the 30% tax that we talked about, there is a 1% TDS. TDS is what? So tax deducted at the source. So there's a 1% TDS also, and there are talks and they're lobbying to remove this TDS or to reduce this TDS amount to 0.01%, but that's something that we can get an update and we'll see. But for now, you have a TDS of 1% on the cryptocurrencies. What does that mean? This means that a 1% tax will be deducted for any sale transaction of cryptocurrencies. For example, let's say you sell Bitcoin worth of 10,000 rupees. Then it means that you will have to pay 1% TDS to the government. This means you will not get the complete 10,000 amount, but what you will get is 10,000 minus 1% of 10,000, which is 9,900. The taxes, if you ask me, is a positive step by the government because the government wants to bring cryptocurrencies in the mainstream. Earlier, it was not very sure that whether you will be able to continue with cryptocurrency investments or not. But now with the cryptocurrency taxations and the regulations that the government has that we'll talk about now, that actually reflect the fact that the government wants to bring cryptocurrencies into the mainstream financial space with other institutions like banks, credit unions and all. right? Now that we have covered the taxation on the cryptocurrencies, incomes or gains that you generate, we should also talk about the regulations which are there on the virtual asset service providers. Basically, broadly, if you speak, the cryptocurrency exchanges. So there are some regulations that we should know that the government has on these VASPs, the virtual asset service providers. So let's talk about them. So we know that the cryptocurrency exchanges, which are the virtual asset service providers, broadly speaking, they come under the ambit of the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, PMLA. So this significant inclusion of the VASPs, the virtual asset service providers, in the PMLA means that they'll have to follow the same guidelines as other financial institutions like the banks. So the banks were already part or under the ambit of the PMLA. Now the cryptocurrency exchanges also should follow the guidelines of the PMLA. Also, do let me know in the comment section if you agree with the government's decision to bring the virtual asset service providers or the cryptocurrency exchanges under the ambit of the PMLA. Also, let me know about your views on the cryptocurrency taxations. Is it too much that the government is asking for or not? Now, coming back to our topic, since the virtual asset service providers come under the ambit of the PMLA, they have to follow certain guidelines. For example, verification of client identity and due diligence, all those KYCs and all they need to do for its customers. Record keeping requirements, like banks have record keeping of all the transactions that are happening and all the customer, how much money they have, what transactions they are having and everything. So these virtual asset service providers also need to have the perfect record keeping of their customers. They have some registration and reporting obligations whenever they are asked for any reports by the PMLA. The VASP must provide these reports. They must register with the Financial Intelligence Unit and submit all the KYC records. There are other guidelines also, like internal compliance mechanisms, designated director and a principal officer. So they need to hire a designated director and a principal officer within them. So the company, the VASP or the exchange must hire a designated director and a principal officer. The scope of work or the key duties of these two officers are also defined. If you want, you can refer to the detailed view of what exactly are the guidelines of the cryptocurrency exchanges or the virtual asset service providers under the PMLA that we just went through in a very brief manner. So I have written an article and it has a detailed description of these guidelines. So the link of this article is in the description box and also in the comment section. Also, let me know if you want a detailed video on the cryptocurrency taxation or the guidelines that the virtual asset service providers should follow. So I can make a separate video because this video can become longer if I mention those details here. Now let's talk about the current state of the cryptocurrency regulations. By the current state, we mean that are there any updates that are to happen? Is India working on updating its regulations? So what is the current state? So currently, let me tell you that India is actually reviewing and updating, working on its cryptocurrency regulations. Now this draft of the updated cryptocurrency regulation was supposed to be ready by September of 2024, but it is delayed. I think it is mostly due to Mr. Trump's friendly regulations on crypto, as you can read here. So we need to wait on the updates that will come. In fact, the budget of 2025 also mentions that the government is working on updating the cryptocurrency regulation landscape, and we'll be on top of it, and I'll bring you an updated video when it comes. Now let's talk a little about the current loopholes or the gaps in the current cryptocurrency regulations. So despite the significant strides of the Indian government and the Indian policymakers in bringing the virtual asset service providers under the PMLA guidelines, there are some notable gaps in the cryptocurrency regulations that we currently have. And this is mainly in terms of the decentralized exchanges and non-custodial wallets. So now you will say, what are decentralized exchanges and what are these non-custodial wallets? So there are two kinds of exchanges. We have the centralized exchanges and we have decentralized exchanges. Centralized exchanges are the ones that you normally know, like Binance, VASPs. These are the centralized exchanges where there's a third party involved in every transaction. Like for example, in VASPs or for example in Coinbase or Binance, when you transact cryptocurrencies, then there's a third party, the company which is involved in these transactions. Now there are certain platforms where there's peer-to-peer, direct transaction happening. Your wallet will be connected to the wallet of another person, and direct transaction of bitcoins, Ethereum, or any cryptocurrency can happen on such platforms. These are actually blockchains. If you want to read about blockchain, I will again paste the link of an article that I have written on the detailed description of blockchain. What is a blockchain? How does it work? The technology behind it and use case and everything. You can check that. So coming back to a topic, so these platforms actually facilitate the direct transfer of cryptocurrencies between peer-to-peer, person-to-person. So the current regulation has these centralized exchanges under their ambit, like the virtual asset service providers are basically the centralized exchanges that comes under the PMLA. But the decentralized exchanges, there are no clear talks about them. So they are not defined whether which are the decentralized exchanges, what are the regulations that we have on these decentralized. So while the centralized exchanges must comply with the anti-money laundering laws and the KYC requirements and everything that we saw, the decentralized exchanges have no clear regulations that they should follow. So this is something that I think is risky, of course, because these exchanges can have transactions without any regulation in place or without any regulatory body controlling these transactions. So money laundering can happen, terrorist activities can be funded. So the next updated regulation should have something about these decentralized exchanges. That is something that I feel should happen. Let me know if you also feel the same, or if you know something else that needs to be shared. Let me know in the comment section. So this is all about the cryptocurrency regulations, and with the budget 2025, we expect to have some updates on these regulations or the regulatory framework. So once that comes, I will bring in another video with the updates. I think some of the updates would be to include decentralized exchanges and non-custodial wallets in the framework, in the regulatory framework. They will define what these decentralized exchanges are or non-custodial wallets are, and what are the taxations, what are the regulatory guidelines that these bodies should follow. And let's see what else. In fact, people are also talking about the 1% VDAs to be reduced to somewhere around 0.01%. So let's see if that happens. Till then, you have a good day. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. If you subscribe and like this video, that will motivate me and it will help me to dedicate more time in researching these topics and bringing in these to you. So you have a good day and keep learning. Thanks.